let's go on to number 5.
So moving on here to tree protection amendments, SDCI 5A1 would add approximately $270,000 and 2 FTE environmental analysts to the Seattle Department of Construction and Inspections to implement and enforce current and anticipated tree protection regulations. One position would be added to the compliance side of SDCI, another would be added to the review side of SDCI. This amendment is sponsored by Councilmember Strauss and is co-sponsored by Councilmembers Peterson and Lewis.
Councilmember Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ketel, and thank you, colleagues, for indulging me in all of this conversation. We're currently in the section of the budget under the purview of my committee, which is why I have so many amendments. So this amendment will add funding for 2 additional arborists at SDCI who will be responsible for both enforcing the current tree regulations and reviewing permit applications to ensure tree preservation and compliance with the tree code. These additional positions will double SDCI's current number of arborists, allowing them to more thoroughly review permit applications and more proactively protect our exceptional trees. As we get closer to seeing the long-awaited tree protection ordinance proposal by the end of this year, providing SDCI with the additional resources up front will both strengthen our enforcement while we implement the long-term protections, and will ensure that the department has the capacity that they need to enforce new tree protections when they are adopted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just a quick question for me. Can you remind me what the anticipated date of passage is, or time frame for passage of that tree ordinance? And given that the tree ordinance has still needs to pass our council, is it that these positions would be needed for the time frame after the passage or for the full year?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Peterson, do you want to answer the timeline question? I joke to a certain degree because Councilmember Peterson and I have been banging on the door to get the tree ordinance that we don't have a timeline for, quite frankly. And so the tree ordinance at best will go out for SEPA by the end of this year, in which we will have a draft to be able to review. So to answer your question, frankly, about when is the tree ordinance passing, it's a question that we don't know the answer to, and has frustrated myself, and I know Councilmember Peterson as well. And so I worked with Councilmember Peterson on this amendment as well, because the arborists are needed with or without the tree ordinance. The arborists have the job of approving or denying permits for removing exceptional trees on private property that will be developed. And then they also have the duty of enforcing and sending to the law department their analysis when trees are illegally cut, where the law department then establishes a fine that that property owner has to pay. So the arborist plays a really important role in our city. We don't have enough of them, and just by adding 2, we double the size of our SDCI arborist group. Happy to say more if you'd like, but I think that's my general pitch on the arborist.
Okay. And Councilmember Peterson or Ketel, I see you off mute. Anything to add to that?
Nothing to add. Chair Mosqueda, the timing is uncertain about when the tree protection regulations will come. It could be, if SEPA is published before the end of the year, it could be at council by the end of the first quarter.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. I'm not seeing any additional questions on this. We can move on to the next item if you'd like.
All right, FDCI 6A1 would impose a proviso on $865,000 worth of appropriations in SDCI for updated tree protection regulations. The proviso would be on the government policy, safety, and support budget summary level, which is where appropriations for code development work are made. This is a proviso on approximately a third of the appropriations in that budget summary level. The proviso would be lifted automatically with transmittal of tree protection regulations to the council.
Excuse me, please go ahead, Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Mosqueda. And picking up on the theme discussed earlier, the purpose of this is really a conditional proviso to ensure that the executive complies with Resolution 31902 by delivering an updated tree protection ordinance. We're really hopeful that we'll receive this comprehensive tree protection ordinance this year, in which case the proviso would not even go into effect. But just in case we don't receive it by the end of this calendar year, we know the executive administrations are changing. This would just be a backup proviso to ensure that we ultimately receive it with the change that's happening with the executive administration soon.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Wonderful. Thank you very much, Councilmember Peterson. Okay, let's move on to SDCI 007.